What's going on, everyone? Give me a quick mic check before we get the ball rolling tonight. It is almost 2021. Alright, sounds like you guys can hear me clearly. Just checking on a few things here before we get the ball rolling. I think we're ready to go. Let me make sure my phone is on, but yeah, no notifications, thank you. Alrighty, let's do this. Alright guys, welcome to episode 35, the last show of 2020. I want to thank you guys all for being here. I want to thank you guys for being here this whole time. Basically from the point we started this during the COVID outbreak. At the precipice of the COVID outbreak, we started doing these live broadcasts to stay in touch with you because we knew all you guys were home, and it's been a lot of fun for me to do this and grow this and get to meet you guys and interact with you through this media. So we're going to keep doing this for 2021. We have been renewed for the next year officially, and we'll be back starting 2021 next week on Wednesday with our first show of 2021, and we'll be covering torque converters. I am gathering information about it. I'm going to have a special guest. His name is Alex Flores. I might even have Jake Long alongside of us as well. Might have all three of us here in one room talking to you about converters and actually answering some of the tech questions or the tech-heavy questions as related to it. So that'll be for next week in particular. We're going to be working on that. If anything changes, we'll give you a heads up ahead of time. But thank you again for being here. This is Power by the Hour Performance, PBH Live. We are located in West Palm Beach, Florida. We are specialists in Coyote swaps. We are specialists in 6R80s and 10R80 transmissions as well. We're teetering into the Godzilla stuff, and we have a full catalog of Coyote swap specific components that you can pick and pluck from for your particular swap. It doesn't have to be a Mustang, doesn't have to be an F100. It can be anything that you want to put a Coyote motor in there. We've definitely helped a lot of folks do this, and we love doing it because we are car guys just like you. We are enthusiasts just like you. So feel free tonight, as you see, there is a live chat. You can see it on the screen right now, to ask questions. If it doesn't get answered in the chat itself, or even if I don't address it, make sure you send us an email, info@pbhperformance.com, or put a post on this video in the replay, and we'll definitely get to it as well. There is a super chat. Super chats are highly appreciated. They are monetary donations, and those questions we always cover live on the show. So if you got something that's burning, you got to get an answer right now, or it's really important maybe to help somebody else in the show, donate to the show. All those proceeds go back into the production quality of the show and getting us to events for 2021. And we can use that to go ahead and grow the reach of the channel. Speaking of growing the reach of the channel and analytics, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the notification bell. When you hit the notification bell, hit all. Also, like the video if you can. Pretty please. The other thing I would say, if you're enjoying this, yes, we love the comments. Yes, we love the thumbs up. All that stuff's important. If you get a chance, go on Google, give us a review. We're going to be putting that into all of our purchases. So when you get an email from us, you'll be asked, or with a link, to go to Google and give us a review and let us know how we're doing. Those reviews definitely help us understand what we're doing great and what maybe we need to work on, so we can work with all of our customers to improve our experience across the board. So, that being said, we'll start the show. We're going to start off with a couple public service announcements. We're going to say hello to some friends, but first I'm going to thank the guys at Turn 14 Distribution. These guys have been with us for a long time. Jason Horde is the gentleman that got us into Turn 14. They sent me this beautiful Yeti cup, which I promptly put a PBH sticker on. Love it. Alrighty. So, first off the bat, we'll say hello to some people that were in the chat room early. 2000 MCR, of course. First in line. Thank you very much, brother. Happy New Year. Suppressed Armament. Thank you for joining us. Says he's waiting on his harness to complete a swap. He's patiently waiting, he adds. Thank you very much. We must be doing either probably a Gen 2 F-150 harness maybe, or something that's on back order, or maybe you're waiting on the Gen 3 F-150 10R80 and manual stuff. That is one of the product updates we're going to be covering here tonight, along with some prototype stuff we're going to show you as well. Jordan Dunning, what's going on, brother? Carlos Arroyo, how we doing? PBH, he says, let's do it. Blue 99, what's going on, brother? Bobby Wortman's in the house. He was 10 minutes early. He was 10 minutes behind. Doesn't matter, Bobby. I was late too. Jordan Dunning, what's going on? Everyone says that we can hear clearly. Clint Uffman. Clint Uffam. Here we go. It says it sounds good. Thank you for joining us tonight, Clint. Wild Horse Racing, what's going on? Douglas Gonsalves. What's going on, Douglas? Jeff Ashlock. Michael Knotts, what's going on? Rob is in the house. Arthur, Happy New Year to you too, my friend. Yeah, you're welcome. Sounds like you got a Gen 2 Coyote motor from us, a crate motor. We got plenty of those ready to go. We can outfit them with just about any combination you need, as long as it's not really building the motor itself, putting blowers on them, different cams, that kind of stuff, oil pump gear, sprockets. We got you. Still got Gen 2s. Nobody else has them. Clint Umpham. Yeah, we'll get to your question here in a second. Donald Fuller, Jarrett Stallworth, Lorenzo Enzo. Yeah, sorry, I had to duck my light there real quick to make sure I can read everything on the screen. And we already have a super chat. JB donating a gracious $2 to the channel. He wants to know where the mustache is. Well, from the dawning of the mustache, I had a lot of fun with it. And I really do enjoy it. And I'm going to tell you right now, it will be back. There were some things I did to that mustache that I want to change. So I'm working on getting it back and getting it a little bit more full. And we're going to bring it back full force. Also, a couple bad things happened after I got the mustache. So I thought maybe, maybe it's a bad luck charm. I'll just change it and see how things go from there. So, yeah. But it will be back. I will return with mustache. The mustache is one of my favorite things I did this year. So, as you can see over my right shoulder, that is the Unlimited Class 2020 Class Champion Trophy. That's always going to be on display here, so you guys know who the boss is here locally when it comes to Unlimited Autocross. What's up? And we are working on getting the car ready for King of the Mountain, Good Guys, and potentially the Holly Ford Fest later on in 2021 as well. So, busy as it goes with the Coyote Swap Fox. We're going to be covering a little bit of those upgrades here in a second because we got some parts for it that I don't think most of you have ever seen. So you've heard us talk about a little bit what I was going to do with the differential on that car. I actually got the parts in today from Strange Engineering, so it's going to be. And Clint, I'm sorry, it was Upham. Now I got it right. All right, so public service announcements. We've covered this before. We didn't do it last week. We're going to do it this week. This little red guy here, if you get this in your PBH speed drive, that means you got a low-profile modular Ford pump power steering bracket. You must use this tool. This is indeed a tool. It is not a spacer. It is not a dog tag. It's not a keychain. You're going to use this tool to relocate the tensioner's dowel. So you're going to be using this guy here in the factory hole, bolted down, and it supplies you a new hole, and you drill it out per the instructions. Read the instructions in every case, unless you're a pro at it and done all these, every single variation. Always read the instructions. There's always something tricky in there that you got to remember to do, so you don't end up with extra nuts and a misalignment. But this one in particular you have to do, or else you're going to have a collision between the tensioner and the power steering pump pulley, and that's not good. The other PSA I'm going to mention is mainly for Coyote swap installations in general with control packs. You must have a solid 12 volts on your ignition tumbler, your key switch, or your engine start button. So when you turn on the ignition, it turns on the computer, and it doesn't just turn off when you go to start it. We get this call a lot. It's usually either something related to grounds or power or the switch itself, especially vintage vehicles. If the tumbler's old and you have a no start condition, check that you have a solid 12 volts throughout all the ranges of the ignition cylinder. So when you turn it on and it excites the PCM, it's a solid 12 volts to the fuse panel and to trigger everything to turn on. And then the same thing when you go to the start request, which is the momentary position that tells the computer, hey, I'm trying to turn the starter on, and the computer then turns the starter solenoid on and gets the vehicle started. So double check those things and make sure if you do have a problem with starting, always look back in that area first and do your verifications. You got to make sure you have good power, good ground at all times. Make sure you have 12 volts hot at all times. So keep all that in mind. All right, so looks like everybody's doing well tonight. And we'll be covering some of the questions I see popping up in the chat. We're going to be talking a little bit about a prototype part that I got in my hands earlier this week. But actually, before we get that, last episode, we did announce some winners of prizes. I emailed all of you. You guys emailed me per the instructions. You emailed me back. I gave you a list of prizes to pick from. And you go ahead and make your selections. We're going to get those things shipped out by the end of this week so we can get them out rolling to you. You had an option between a 6-burner Weber grill, a 4-night, 3-day stay cruise of your choice, a PBH coaster, t-shirt, banner. I think we had $10,000 cash and some Amazon gift cards. You guys are awesome. You picked only the PBH gifts, and we really appreciate that because then we can consume the other stuff ourselves. Thank you. Thank you very much, and congratulations. All right, so mass airflow meters. When it comes to tuning, we all know that the mass airflow meter has a lot to do with how good our vehicles are going to run. Your tuner, most likely either Lund Racing or somebody else is doing stuff remote, is looking at that stuff and they're asking you all the time what the diameter of it is, what model it is, if you used an aftermarket one, is it tune required, no tune required, all that stuff. Because without it, it throws off a lot of stuff. Ford Racing, Ford Performance, does include in the control packs a stock airbox. And you may be using a stock airbox from your donor vehicle, which is great, but usually they don't fit that great to the aprons and so forth. So you're left with an issue. If it doesn't fit, you got to make something custom. If it does fit, the airbox is kind of tough to make work perfectly, I guess. Some vehicles you can make it work, some can't. Some Gen 1s maybe not, but Gen 2 and Gen 3, yes, a little bit easier. The elbow that's supplied sometimes hits the radiator and the cooling fan. I got to get something a little bit tighter to the engine. I want the air filter on the passenger side, not the driver's side, so I need something I can flip. So we've been trying to address this problem for a while now. Throughout the year, we had 2 or 3 different products we came out with, and actually all of them we ended up testing on my car. What we finally ended up doing is developing our own mass airflow meter housing so that we can ensure that tuning won't be a problem and fitment won't be a problem. So what we came up with was making no tune required mass airs for Gen 1, 2, and 3. Now we'll preface this, Generation 1 and 2 are the same. Generation 3 is where things are a little bit larger, so they're going to be their own style housing. But our idea is to give you something that works with off-the-shelf programming so that you don't have to worry about it on startup. What happens is you get a JLT cold air kit, you get a K&N cold air kit, you make something custom yourself, and you haven't got a custom calibration yet. Maybe you're trying to do this without it. You fire the vehicle up and it's not running right, but you don't know why. Maybe in particular, it could be related to that, maybe not. So our idea is, or was, to get you a stock size mass air housing that's universal in nature. So if you wanted to make your own cold air kit, or maybe buy a complete cold air kit, at the onset of everything is that mass air, and it is exactly the stock size. So your tuner, or lack of tuner, can rule out the mass air being the problem. Constantly, when custom cold air kits are being introduced to these Coyote swaps, it throws a variable into the tuning, and it can really throw drivability for a loop to the point where you always start circling back to it in case there's a problem, and you're always chasing it, and potentially the problem could be somewhere else. So we want to try to eliminate that. Now, performance-wise, bigger seemingly is always better in this arena. So if power is your ultimate goal, these are all stock size. I will tell you, I have not experienced much power loss on mine going from a 4-inch tube to the stock diameter. Stock diameter, I want to say, is around 85 millimeters, so roughly about 3.5 inches. So I'm going to show you what our prototype looks like, and this is something we're going to be coming out with in the near future, and we'll have on our website in all different variations. And I think this is going to help out a lot of guys, who might be trying to save some bucks by maybe not using aftermarket tuning if they can get away with it. But at the same time, just putting something on there that is going to mimic the factory, to the point where you can almost use this with a stock intake tube if you wanted to. So let me show you what we're talking about. This here is the prototype of the PBH mass air housing for the Coyote. Now the one I'm holding here, this is generation 1 and 2, so it's 85 millimeter. As you can see, we got a nice Canon air filter on the end of it there. The housing itself is made here in the USA. It works with the stock mass airflow meter. These are what you're going to find in your stock vehicles, in your control packs, and the PBH control packs across the board. It'll work with generation 1, generation 2, and there'll be a larger version of this to match the generation 3. We got some super chats there from some of our favorite fans. So this guy here, what's going to be neat is we're going to offer it just like this. So if you wanted to make your own custom cold air kit for your generation 1 through 3 F-150 or Mustang Coyote swap, and you want to make your own intake tube, or maybe you want to use the intake tube that came with the control pack or even with the donor vehicle, but you can't use the air box, you can buy this guy, and the stock air tube will match up right to the backside of here. It will just clamp right down. So you don't have to worry about changing anything there. And those stock intake tubes are important because they have vacuum provisions for stuff and PCV provisions as well. If you like that look, you can use it. Saves you some bucks in buying a custom cold air kit. If you want to change it, we're going to have variants that are going to come with a nice aluminum tube so you can make something custom. They're going to be tight fitting to the block. So if you have a Bronco, an F100, anything across the board, you can pretty much get it done and use it. But this guy here is where the meat and potatoes are going to be. Now, I've been running this on my car for the last autocross, and it runs a lot better than what I had on there before. What I had used before was a variant that we were working or trying to use, which was a 18-inch aluminum tube with a mass air on it. And even though it got the job done, it always had some drivability issues because the mass air that's welded on that tube actually would lie close to the elbow. And where the elbow was near the throttle body, I think there was maybe some turbulence there or fan wash or something like that. And it always had a little bit of a hunt. And we weren't really able to like 0, 0, 0, 0 and perfect. When we switched out to this guy here, Alex Flores from Lund Racing updated the tune, put the stock data in there. Man, it runs and drives a lot nicer. Really, really, really big night and day difference. It runs really like a sewing machine now. So these guys here are something we're working on releasing in the coming weeks. All aluminum. It'll come with a hardware, air filter, clamp. Now we did do a step up here. Let me pull this off real quick, actually. Ooh, come off of there. Maybe it's on there for good. All right, so it's on there for good. But basically, we did build a step up. And the reason we do that is we wanted to use a Canon air filter that's readily available and not something that's kind of custom sized where they're going to run out of stock or something like that. Here we go. Get your clamp off of here. All right, now we're off of there. And the machine work is excellent on this, and the design, Jake Long, owner of PBH, did all the design work and CAD drawings on this guy here too. And you can see, got a really nice step there. That way the airflow is nice and clear. Now the spacing that we built into it mimics the exact spacing from the air filter to the mass airflow meter that the factory uses as well. So factory data, you don't have to change anything. So this is really nice. We might incorporate this design into some larger housings for high performance stuff. But as of right now, we're starting with this guy here. Stock size, aluminum, comes with an air filter, and you can do anything you want to do from here to the throttle body. You don't have to do anything special. Not to do any particular size tubing or diameter or length or whatnot. This is handling all the electronics. So after this, you can go buck wild and do whatever you want. You want carbon fiber, fiberglass, aluminum, steel, chrome, polished, painted, powder coated, whatever. You want it shaped like an S, like a U. You want to stick it out of the hood, whatever. As long as you're not getting fan wash on the filter itself, like from your fan, basically the air coming out of the radiator when it's on, causing some turbulence, you're good to go. So we might even have a shield for it in case you have something like that going on, or at least an option for one. But this guy here, this is going to save a lot of headaches for guys out there when they're making their custom cold air kits. This will take the guesswork out of the mass air, the placement of it, the filter, and then after this they can go custom, they can go nuts. So let me know, do you think something like this would have saved you some time, some headache on your project? Give us some feedback on it, because it is something we're going with. It is going to be available soon from PBH. So there's a lot going on in the chat here. I got to see what's going on. F-150 S550 in the super chat says channel support, taco money, and YDBT needs an F-150. I think with what's going on with our new project vehicle, which was announced on Alex's channel here recently, Jake Long did buy a brand new regular cab short bed F-150 four-wheel drive Coyote 10R80, and it's going to be a little bit of a tribute truck to his dad. He hasn't had a performance car since he sold his Cobra, and it's time to play a little bit. So he bought this beautiful red truck because his dad had a red truck, and we're going to apply everything that we can to it. So we're looking at turbocharging it, doing some aesthetics to it right now, which he's covering on his channel right now with some of the new stuff we're filming right before we started here. I know they took it out, ran it with a draggy, so you can see all the stock information. We did a tonneau cover today. They got some fender flares for it. We're going to order some wheels for it, lower it, LED lights, this and that, and then it's going to get boost. It's going to get boost, a fuel system, Lund Racing tuning, and let it rip. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one works out and how it performs, because those powertrains are really what we're working with on a regular basis with our customers. So see how it does. And Alex did hop into the super chat and says F-150 will be coming soon to get a PBH treatment fender flares. So he's answering F-150 S550 saying he's going to get one, and he's going to bring it here and get some bushwhacker fender flares, because that's hot. I mean, why not, right? All right, so Turbo Gumpy's in the house. What's going on, brother? Yep, prototype stuff, mass airflow housing. Yep. Let's see, any interested in that? Yeah. Everyone wants a little bit of our tube. It's going to be a really neat product, because I think for the custom builders out there that maybe are used to LS stuff and it's all MAP and they just put like an air filter on a throttle body, or they make twin snorkels and go crazy, then we start trying to coach them into proper mass air placement and where to put it and how close is the bend. Is the bend too short? Is the pipe's not long enough? Whatever. All they have to do is buy this and it'll work. So from there, they can just be as creative as they want to make things happen. Let's see here. Well, looks like some general chat going on in there. Hey, Caleb from Foxcast Media is in the house. He's covering a bunch of stuff right now. What were you guys working on? You guys are finishing that blue Coyote swap Whipple car. That's coming out soon. And you got an event coming up too, Caleb, I believe. So we'll see. See what's going on out there. Definitely check out Foxcast Media. And this might be something you guys use in the future. Maybe a larger version of it. Who knows? We'll see. I ran a 4-inch and my car made 424. I think it's time to put my car back on the dyno with the new housing and see if it makes the same power. That'd be a good test. See how it works. We can even switch them back and forth. Alex, I know he's here on the channel. Maybe he can come over and we can do a quick test between this guy here and the larger tube. And when we do the full cold air kits, it'll probably come with a 4-inch tube behind it, and it'll just be a step-up silicone coupler from the housing back. That way we can get, again, make sure we have parts that are available, readily available, and in stock and easy to work with. So, all right. So the next thing we're going to cover, speaking of cool parts, we have alluded to in our coverage of the autocross stuff I'm doing with my own coupe that I'm going to be doing a full floater conversion to the differential. It's an 8.8 Torsen T2R. It's widened to the 01 to 04 specs. I'm going to wet my whistle here real quick. All right. And since we're going to be playing with the big boys coming up this year, I want to try to give the rear end an update. Now, full floater means axle is splined on both ends, and there's a hub on the end of the differential. This is what's used in NASCAR, a lot of off-road trucks, that kind of stuff. And it does give the option to build in negative camber and toe changes to a solid axle differential, which is typically reserved as a pro for the IRS suspension. But once I started looking at all the numbers, everything I'd have to change, and finding an IRS, I decided to just keep the 8.8 that I have and rock and roll with it and finish it. So I'm going to show you some of the cool parts that are part of this assembly. And then I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. Let me hop over to this photo I have from Strange. So this is a full floater hub assembly built and ready to go. Now you see the little Strange cap in the center of the 3 bolts. Behind that is a splined axle. Going through the assembly is a drive plate, a backing plate, and then the hub pieces themselves. Now the hub pieces, the way they work on the differential is you end up having to cut your axle ends completely off. In this case here, since the 8.8 differential is a little bit smaller than a 9-inch, the inside diameter has to be measured and then has to be removed from this hub. Now this hub here, this is basically what the end of my differential is going to look like. The big steel strong piece. And this guy here will be machined down to the ID of the 8.8 tube. We got to drill 4 holes, about 1/2-inch holes in the tube itself, so we can plug weld it and then weld all the way around 360 degrees. So this ends up being part of the axle tube. The next step is this little aluminum spacer here, which really isn't a spacer. This is actually a toe plate. Now I'm using 0 toe. I don't know if we can focus on that, if you can see it. You can't see it, but it says 0 toe on it. They offer it with a bunch of different toe settings for custom application. Then all the magic is this guy here. So this guy here, this is the actual hub snout. This is where the bearings are going to ride, sealed. The axle is going to come through here. But this guy in particular is 1.5 degrees of negative camber. You probably can't read that, but it says 1.5 degrees negative camber. When you look at it, just looks like a straight through hub. You look at the back side of it, you see this area here, it's a little bit bigger versus this. It's actually angled, and that gives you negative camber. So I'll have a negative cambered 0 toe differential, which should help greatly in corner grip. And talking to the guys that have this kind of stuff in road racing and Auto X, it does make a heap of difference. But it's a heap of work to get it done and get it done right. So, on top of this will be a hub. And the hub's a couple pieces. There's this guy here, which is the main part of the hub. As you can see inside, the races are in there, so it'll be inner and outer bearing, similar to a front hub setup on a truck. The studs come through here. This is bolted to this guy in particular with 2 bolts. And this is the drive plate, and this is what the axle grabs onto. Right? So this is the furthest outer part of the assembly, and this is what's holding the axle in and grabbing it. It's bolted to this hub, which is sitting on the spindle, and it drives the wheels. Now this hub assembly, since now the axle doesn't have a bearing pressed on it and has rolling resistance because of it, frees up the differential and allows it to basically spin a lot easier. That alone should help speed the car up maybe a little bit. It's heavy. I don't think it's heavier than what I have now, but it is a lot more equipment, more maintenance. On top of this, I got to change my rear brake setup, so I'm working with Willwood on getting that done. Once we have that squared away, I got a new differential housing that I picked up. We're going to modify that one, mock it up, get everything done, and then swap it out in my car, and I'll have negative 1.5 degrees of camber on a solid axle diff, which for some reason, I just think it's really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm also dreading it because I know it's going to be a lot of late nights and weekends trying to make sure everything's right. I'm going to be employing Mike Chamberlain, our technician here at PBH, heavily to make sure this gets done and gets welded. And I think it's going to be a cool project for him to get involved with too, because there aren't a whole lot of guys running this kind of stuff. And there is one from Cortex Racing, which is like $6,000 or $7,000 from Australia. It's a lot more affordable. This is from Strange. This kit starts around $2,000 plus your brake setup, so, and then your labor or whatever you got to do. So it's gonna be cool. We'll see what's going on. Let's see. F-150 S550 also chiming in the super chat here. Can Gen 2 control pack be converted to map? I don't believe so. I don't think you can. No. Gen 2 control pack. No, because a control pack has a Mustang computer and Mustang wiring. So it has zero provisions for the map sensor, everything for the math. Could it be done? Yeah, I think you'd have a better chance if you use an F-150 computer. But then you're going to have to rewire with F-150 in mind, which is not what you're going to want to do with a control pack. You probably want to do custom wiring for that to even have a chance. And then calibration may be potentially a little bit of an issue as well. So definitely something that's an option, but probably wouldn't be the most popular thing. All right, so yeah, Caleb says he's definitely in on something like that. You guys are going crazy here in the chat, man. I love it. We got 50 people in there right now, rocking and rolling. Let's see. Let's see if we can pluck a few questions out of here. Who is it? Donald Fuller says he's asking, nothing to do with mass airflow. Can anyone tell me if the 8.8 out of a new Edge bolt up in an 83 Fox body? The 8.8 differentials themselves, the housings are a little bit wider and narrower through the years. I believe the older Fox body stuff was a little bit narrower. The 01 to 04 was the widest version, but it was more than just the housing. It was actually the offset on the brakes themselves. So if you're looking to do that brake upgrade, be mindful you got to change the axles as well. If you're trying to keep it narrow, you may have to get custom axles to use the GT brakes in some cases, but you're going to be the widest potential 8.8 combo is going to be out of a new Edge Mustang. So keep that in mind as far as wheel, backspacing, clearance to the tubs, that kind of stuff. You may want to stick with a Fox body version, Fox body brake options to get that done, because it's like, I think, an inch on each side that it's wider in the 01 to 04. So I'm using the 01 to 04 footprint offset for this stuff, because when I originally built my car, it was for American Iron Racing. We were stuck on a 275 tire, but we're allowed up to 72 inches wheel to wheel as far as track width. So I wanted to get as much track width with a 275 tire as possible. The easiest way to do that was the 01 to 04 offset. The other thing I will tell you, because of that overhang from the flange to the axle face, you end up warping axles a little bit more often with heavy driving, heavy performance driving. What's going on, the Danimal? Thank you for joining us, bro. We're all doing good. We're having a good time here. Chase Delia. Does the spline that goes into the hub have a taper or a radius? Also, have you talked to Mike Meyer in, I think, San Fran? I know he's in California. He's a guru with the stuff. I haven't talked to Mike Meyer. I spoke to a couple companies in Australia that have this stuff. These axles are crowned to take into account the camber. So you have crown splines on both ends. And then we'll measure it and get them made by Strange. They'll send them to us and they'll just drop right in. And then it's just a matter of keeping, really good grease, some extra bearings here and there, seals, that kind of stuff in play, so that we don't have any problems moving around. Lorenzo Enzo says, Mike Chamberlain is incredible. He absolutely is. He's adorable, too. All right. Wild Horse Garage, you guys are all talking. Okay, cool. So we'll bring up a few other things here. We did mention that our products were spotlighted and used in a Hot Rod Garage episode on Motor Trend TV. And we didn't have a whole lot of photos to that stuff because it's kind of proprietary. It still is. But they did put an article on Hot Rod's website. And they do have a lot of photos of the swap and some of the things they did and what the car looks like. Talks about our products and all the other stuff they used in it. And you can go on there. I'm going to put the link to this website in the description of this video, and you can go through it and see all the photos from the build in case you don't have the Motor Trend app to watch the episode. But it's a new Edge. It's got a Gen 1 F-150 motor in it. They got it done. It's using a 3650 transmission, and they're having fun with it. they do plan on adding some power to it and taking it potentially to like events like the Silver State Run, which we talked about last week in Arizona, and some other stuff. Tony Angelo is in Pennsylvania, so when I go up to the King of the Mountain event, I'll probably be visiting guys like him if we can get to him, or if he's available. Bill Tumas from CJ Pony, the guys at London Racing as well, because they're all in striking distance of the event as well. So we should have fun visiting some of these guys, getting some pictures, maybe do some video and stuff like that. Jarrett Stallworth with a question. Any support for the 6R60 trans trying to Coyote swap a 3-valve Explorer? Well, the 6R60, yeah, I mean, to my knowledge, in the 6R60, why can't I say that? 6R60. Sounds weird. The 6R80 components should work in there. You got to be mindful of some of the drums and pistons. They are larger in the 6R80, so the components that we upgrade in 6R80, if you just get those, you may have some trouble installing it. You'll have to also upgrade some other components within the 6R60 to make sure that all that stuff will work. So, if you're interested in doing that, email me, frank@pbhperformance.com. I can get you the information that you need to go ahead and apply the 6R80 components to the 6R60, and that's about all the support mechanically that you can get. The rest is going to be up to tuning. Alrighty, so let's see. We got another question there. I love this name, Drunk Mother Fracker. Okay, so F-150 Gen 2 harness from y'all works with Gen 2 control pack, correct? Yes, it does. So how does a control pack use MAF sensor compared to a MAP sensor? Well, it's in the engine harness. So when you use our engine harness, we're adding the provisions into it to make sure that MAF is being used instead of MAP. Then the changes in the tune will also apply this, which really are in the control pack PCM, because the control pack PCM is from a Mustang, so it doesn't have any provisions for MAP. So we're just making sure the wiring lines up to the control pack PCM, which is Mustang based, and then the changes in the firing order are applied, which are also into the harness itself. So you're adding a MAP sensor. Actually, the MAP sensor is in the body harness, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the MAP sensor is in the body harness. So you're using that. The engine harness then gets changed for the injector timing and the coil pack timing, and then those changes are also applied to the calibration, which we provide as well. So because the PCM is Mustang based, we're not really having to do much calibration wise. If you're trying to do it the other way around, that's a little bit different. Now you're talking about making an F-150 specific control pack with a Mustang body harness from a control pack, which you're going to have a Mustang PCM sitting there to get that body harness, so typically it's not done. So that's why. Parker says, I can't wait to see this, Frank. I've always thought it was a good look. Oh, okay. Well, absolutely, thank you. Another bit of news, tuning wise, the N gauge is going away. So the N gauge tuner, unfortunately, the company that makes it, which is eMotion, announced earlier this week that they're going out of business. They will no longer be making the N gauge tuner or any of their devices. It was short notice because they weren't really planning on doing this. They had some investors that were involved, and when they found out they couldn't manufacture these things because of all the COVID issues in China and stuff like that, everyone pulled out, and they were left with no resources to get this thing continuing to manufacture it and supply tuners like Lund Racing, HP tuners, that kind of stuff. So if you have an N gauge tuner, hold on to it, don't throw it away. It's a great tuner to use. It'll still be supported by Lund Racing and potentially all the other tuners out there that have supported it up to now. But what are we going to start selling? Because if we lose the N gauge, what's my other option? Well, the SCT X4 is still an option. It is still supported. Lund Racing has always supported it, even though they offered the N gauge. And with some of the later upgrades they've done to the X4 with Wi-Fi and everything, it is easier to use. So if you have an X4, something newer, even the older ones, data logging is easier than it is now with the X4 than it was previously. Previously, a lot of guys had to use a laptop, load the the config to the laptop, plug the laptop into the SCTX4, then into the car, and you had all this stuff going on. It's just way too complicated. What if I don't have a Windows-based computer and I got Mac? Oh, I got a problem here, there. Well, Lund Racing does have configs that can be loaded to the X4s, so you can data log it right through the device just like you would an N-Gage. If you have one that's Wi-Fi compatible or capable, if you make that Wi-Fi connection, once you're done logging it, it will email you the log file. And then from there, you can send it to Lund Racing. You can also plug it into their software through their cable and extract it manually in that sense. But if you have the Wi-Fi capabilities, everything's done over the air, and you can send it off, and it's a lot easier to work with if you have that set up. So don't freak out. The X4 is still there and can be used. It's just not a good, pretty gauge. So if you're planning on using the N-Gage maybe for an auxiliary gauge in your project vehicle, I would buy one pretty soon. There's limited supply everywhere because there's not going to be any more of them. Used ones probably will go up in price too, so keep that in mind as you're looking for them. If there is a problem with it, I believe there's still going to be support to fix them. And I know Lund Racing maybe is in talks about doing that kind of stuff. So keep all that in mind as you're purchasing. If you want the N-Gage, and maybe that was down a little bit further on the list, you're going to wait till the car is done or the truck is done to order it, I would go ahead and get it now before it's gone completely. So keep that in mind. N-Gage is being discontinued. So, all right. So that covers all the stuff that I laid down that we wanted to talk about. Now let's concentrate back on this chat. Yes, and if any of you are in the dating scene or want to talk about dating, our friend Alex Flores does have a channel that's dedicated to dating. I would say probably from more of a guy's perspective. It's a lot of fun to listen to. I probably wouldn't listen to it with your significant other, maybe, but give it a shot. Who knows what kind of relationship you guys have. But he talks about a little bit of everything, and you can chime in with a live chat as well and be part of the conversation. So definitely check that out. He just put the link in the chat room. Yeah, okay, yeah. The MAF is part of the body harness. So in the control pack, in Generation 2, Rob is mentioning there, it is part of the body harness. I get them mixed up here and there. All right, Arthur asks, can you drop a Coyote in from the top of a new Edge? You could. You definitely could. It's going to be easier to do it from the bottom if you have a lift at your disposal, but you could probably do it from the top. I would say you're probably not going to do it with the transmission hanging off the back of it, so probably get the engine in there, get it fastened, get it hoisted and held in place, and then apply the transmission from the bottom. That way you're not banging and beating on stuff or running out of room. If you can do it from the bottom with a lift at your disposal or really, really tall floor jacks, there's a gentleman I watch on YouTube. He used those huge, like 6-ton floor jacks, and he had the car set up at an angle. Built a cart, rolled the entire powertrain under the vehicle. He grabs the car with a cherry picker at that point, picks it up a little bit, gets the jacks out safely, lowers the car back down, gets it fastened, and then you can work on getting everything fitted and done. So, Arthur, we do carry N-Gages. We have, I think, maybe 10 or 15 of them left, and you can purchase them on our website, along with Lund Racing Tuning as well. Well, I thought you were plugging the dating channel, man. I'm sorry, Alex. The link that he put on there is about the SCT. I thought he was talking about the dating channel because he's posting his dating channel. He's not posting his Alex Flores. I'm sorry, man. I'm just trying to help. Either way, click the link if you want to look at SCT, and then when you're looking at that, just turn on the dating channel and listen to it in the background. Careful. If you're married, you might get a divorce. If you're dating, she might leave you. Yeah, Lorenzo Enzo, you're right. COVID-19. And, yes, they fell victim to COVID-19, but they also fell victim to supply, where if you were manufacturing stateside, would you have more options right now or be able to transition a little bit easier versus overseas? I don't know. We don't really get too deep into that stuff. We try to make everything stateside. For us, it just makes the most sense as far as quantity and everything, but I can understand if overseas is the way to go. And COVID definitely impacted that area, or wherever it's coming from. and those factories are shut down. I was reading a list of all the restaurants that are shut down in our area here, and it sucks. Everyone's just gonna have to work through it. I have a feeling it'll be back down the road. Cristo, yes, we do ship to California. So any of the products we have has a Proposition 65, blah, 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 all that stuff on there. But we do ship to California. So if you need anything on our website, or maybe there's something that's not on our website that you need to get, give us a call, email us, info@pbhperformance.com. Our phone number is 561-737-2331. We got 4 guys on the phones, Travis Dean, Frank Pezzo, Christian Papa, and myself, to help get those orders facilitated. If you need anything, just call us. Chase says, hey, Stacy and I watch the dating channel every week, usually on replay because of the time differences. It's entertaining, to say the least. I know I've turned it on a few times on the replay, and my wife overhears it and has a certain look to her as she hears some of the conversation that's going on. But it's cool. Yeah. Parker says, single life for the win. Yeah, good for you, man. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, married life for the win. Okay. All right. So, we got about 10 minutes left. Arthur says he's ordering his Engage tonight. Oh, Arthur's leaving our show to get front row seats for the dating channel. Awesome. That worked out great. All right. And actually, earlier he asked an interesting question. He asked, what type of IATs are you seeing with the filter sitting in the engine bay? I wish someone had something to put the filter back in the fender like factory. Well, what I did on my engine bay is I just basically opened a hole into the fender area, and I left the tube a little long so the fender would sit in there. And when I cut open the hole in the fender well, I just pushed the metal down. It kind of created a ledge, and the filter sits in there. Not the most scientific and fabrication heavy solution, but it definitely helped with a lot of the problems I was having with IATs. I had previously run Scott Rod panels and had the filter in the engine bay, and the IATs were hovering around 140, 145 degrees. It was pulling timing, and on the course, it was slowing me down. I extended it, put the filter in the engine, in the fender well, and my IATs went to ambient, or what do you call it? Well, whatever. It was, the IATs are the same as outside, basically, the same temperature. So if it was 85 degrees outside, I was seeing like 89, 90. Right now, with the way I have it set up, the only time I see my IATs climb is when the vehicle is stationary. Once I get rolling on the autocross course, it drops down. Even with that, it never gets above 130. And I believe the computers are set up to start pulling timing around 140. So it keeps me from having an issue. Cooling fans and stuff like that definitely hurt that. Moving air in the engine bay is important. So all the components kind of normalize in temperature. So keep that in mind and watch it. Use your Engage, use your SCT tuner, and look at it. You can put it in Engage mode and watch it live, even with diagnostic tools, and see how it's reacting to it. When you seal up an engine bay in a Fox body or any other project car, they're naturally going to be higher. So our kit, you could probably do fender well mounted. It just takes some fabrication, maybe some clamps, that kind of stuff to make it work. And like I said, we're probably going to carry a shield just in case somebody has fan wash. They can just add it on there and kind of block the air. If you have ram air coming in between headlights, over the headlights from a hood, landing directly on the filter, when you're in motion, it could lead to stalling, especially at highway speeds. So it's something that's important to make sure you're getting fresh air, but not ram air. You don't really want to just put it out there and get all this turbulent air at all times, because as soon as you close the throttle body, if you still got air coming in there, it'll pressurize that tube, and it'll kind of go back and forth across the meter, and the computer doesn't know what to do with it. It only wants to see air coming through one way. And the stock air boxes do a great job of that. They're just not great and universal in nature. So, I saw some other good questions in there. I may have missed them. All right, thank you for joining us, Chase. Thank you for joining us. Good luck in the shed. working on the Mustang, which might be code for something sexual. The Danimal, if you didn't have a Coyote in your race car, what kind of engine would you run? That's a good question. I mean, I'm a Ford guy, so I'd have to stick with Ford power. It'd probably end up being an older modular. At first, I was thinking about doing a 3-valve. Because realistically, power-wise, 300 horsepower, maybe a little bit higher than that, is kind of where I wanted to be performance-wise. I don't need 1,000 horsepower for what I'm doing. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a handful, but a lot of things go with it. The 3-valve probably would have been what I would have gone to. If it wasn't for the price of the control pack, I probably would have ended up with a 3-valve, believe it or not. And they sound great with camshafts. You can make power with them. You can make up to 500 horsepower NA with them from what I've seen. So it just takes some parts and so forth. It gets expensive like anything. NA is really expensive for small increments. Other than that, maybe a really well-built Windsor. But it probably wouldn't be my top choice. I'd probably go 32-valve 4.6, 5.4, 3-valve before I'd go into the overhead valve stuff. Now with the Godzilla, maybe. But, I mean, the Godzilla, an article came out the other day, the thing with 14 pounds of boost is making like 1,300 horsepower in an engine dyno. But it's a fully built version of the Godzilla with a dry sump. And those are really good numbers. Those are great, I would say, efficient numbers because they're using the same blower that we use on Coyotes. And it's making more power, but it's also like a stage 3 head, the fully built bottom end. It's got a dry sump. I mean, any dry sump, any which way you slice it, is like $4,000 or $5,000. So it's a race motor. It's hard to use that and compare it to what you're going to do with stock stuff. And I wouldn't look at that as a true, super true comparison to what you're going to get with a Whipple supercharged stock engine from a junkyard. But it still shows the potential of that Godzilla engine in the racing world. Big inch, doing all the fun race stuff to it, motor plating, all that stuff. Now you can just bolt a blower on the top and make big power. That's something that's kind of new. Previously, the only way you're going to make that power with an overhead valve engine was turbos, for the most part. They're doing the PD blower, which is a feather in the cap of Whipple for being on board with that and doing it on that engine. So hats off to them. It shows a lot of promise. I think still there's going to be a lot of packaging issues with the Godzillas and trying to get the cars to be exactly the way we're used to them. And dry sumps are going to probably be part of that solution, depending on how else we can get rid of that oil pump and that jack shaft. And, by the way, there's a rumor that the Generation 4 Coyote may have the same style oil pump. Jack shaft style. It's the same thing they did with the 10R80. They moved the oil pump out of the front pump of the transmission and did a little jack shaft deal where it's got a separate pump. So it might be the way everyone's going with their components and their oil pumps in general. I hope they don't do it. It's going to really make oil pans and stuff kind of hard to mess with, and the aftermarket will catch up. But I hope it's not. Hope the answer isn't just going to be dry sumping everything, because you don't really have. It'd be crazy to dry sump, a stock engine just to make it fit. That would suck. But the potential of the Godzilla is interesting. If I can get a Godzilla engine and fit it into a Maximum Motorsports K member, that would be an option because it's big torque. And that's what the LS guys use for the same style of racing. They want those LT4s. But, I can do a Coyote with a PD blower and have just as much fun. Just heat exchangers and all that stuff come into play too. So there's a little bit of pro-con, push and pull out of each option. But budget beater thing, I would probably do a 3-valve, potentially, if I didn't have the Coyote. And it would sound cool, Yeah, Wild Horse makes a good point. He says any engine has potential if you throw wheelbarrows full worth of cash at it. Yeah, we can 4-valve a 350 Chevy if money was no object. Koenigsegg has electronic valve train. It's true. It does show the potential of that engine, and it's a lot of potential. It's just, again, I keep seeing it and keep looking at it going, 9 out of 10 of you, it's going to be too much crap going on to make it feasible to go after it. it's going to take a lot more parts, it sounds like. And control packs really aren't even available yet. That's all. We continue to have this conversation until all these parts come to fruition. It's going to be hard to really say which one's better than the other. And I think at the end of the day, no one's going to definitively be able to say that the Godzilla is better than the Coyote, or it's a better option or it's not, because there's so many variables to all this stuff. The Coyote is a great engine, whether you buy it at $8,000 or you buy it for $500. But if, for sake of argument, if you can say you buy all your Coyotes for $1,500, or Godzillas or whatever, you know, so I don't know. I think they're both going to be solid engines. Obviously, have Coyote's proven itself. The Godzilla's starting to prove itself. Bradenton NMRA next year may see some Godzilla cars running in it, because I talked to Paul about that from Paul's High Performance, and I think he might be planning on coming down, making his resurrection into the racing world with his car that you saw in the PRI video that we featured here on the live show. So it'll be interesting to see how they work. Rob, you mentioned there to do a package deal with the air tube and the N-gauge and the tune. We are going to package all that stuff together, but most likely it'll just be mass air with the filter and then option to get the cold air tube and then tuning. You know, it'll be listed with it, but it probably won't be a package deal. Honestly, it doesn't benefit us to package it all together because we can't like lower the price and you know, make it more. It's better to just offer them as separate pieces and let guys you know, pick what they need. And yes, dry sump is better than any dry hump. Yeah. Bad Harry's Hideaway. Can you use a stock floor shifter? Where'd you go? There. Stock floor shifter from a 67 Mustang with a 6R80. If not, what would be my best option? If there's a way to use a stock floor shifter from a 67 with a 4R70W transmission, if there's any information out there about doing that, or an AODE, look into it. See what's done, because usually it means you're going to convert the cable on that stock shifter. Any shifter you're going to try to use as a 6R80, at minimum, should have 5-position gate. That would be optimal, right? So, if it can work with modification on an AODE or a 4R70W, it can work on a 6R80 because we have the shift lever that allows you to adapt that. So you can put our shift lever on there and use it with an AODE or 4R70W cable. That's your path to using a 6R80 with it, but it's going to hinge on, it's going to definitely hinge on it being able to be used with an AODE or a 4R70W already. Now that's going to be easier to find information on. Floor shifters are something that we're looking at as another potential item that we're going to add to our catalog. So there might be a nicer option than what's available out there. Locar currently has one. They're hard to get because they're having issues with production. So I think Gumby was telling me the other day his Locar shifter is like 8 months out or something like that. It's a crazy number. And there's been some fitment issues and, you know, tolerance issues with those units. So they're working through that stuff. It may be something you have to figure out yourself if you decide to go with one. If you go those routes, at least you can make it look more nostalgic or period correct if you're going for that. So all that stuff that you know, are an option for you. Danimal asked, does the Godzilla come in anything beside the F-250 or F-350? I didn't know if it was available in any other vehicles. No, it does not. It's only fleet vehicles, F-250s and up. You're not finding it in the F-150 unless they do some sort of special package. There's been rumor that it may be in a Mustang down the road because the engine plant that's being built had an announcement on a contract, and Caleb had it on his channel, and they said that it was going to be in some Mustang derivatives. So maybe there's an all-aluminum version they might wedge into Mustang, some sort of special package or something like that. So Christo asks, any downs on using GT350 heads on a 5.0? Yeah, because you're going to have to use some custom camshafts. That would be the only downside, is you can't just take a GT camshaft and put it in a GT350 head. It has to be a custom grind. And that would be problematic. Potentially problematic. They are better flowing heads, so it might be, you know, the juice may be worth the squeeze, but let's see here. Lorenzo Enzo says, I'm getting the body harness Monday, and the last thing will be the speed drive, and I'm, for the most part, back on the road. Back on the road. 06 Coyote swap. There's no, you didn't space any of your words out. Back on the road. 06 Coyote swap, then obviously a few tweaks. Tweak's birthday tomorrow, something to look forward to. Wow, I read that. That's awesome. Yeah, if you look at your comment, man, there's no spaces between some of the words, so. All right, so Danimal, no, the Danimal, I don't think it may come in. Since F-250, 350, 450, 550 chassis are sold stripped, it might be what you find under vans and motorhomes and stuff like that. Absolutely. Even the Econolines, maybe, if that's still going on. So, alrighty, guys. Well, that was fun. Gumby hopping at the end saying he's sorry he missed today's chat. He was in a shop, Coyote swapping shit. Thank you for joining either way, man. Happy New Year to everyone. Thank you for joining us. Again, this is episode 30, 35 episodes, man. I knew it was going to be good. I didn't think we'd have this good of a following on a regular basis, but I'm proud of that. And I love being here and talking with you guys and spreading some knowledge and getting ideas for future shows and giving out some swag and stuff like that. So thank you all for the support. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing PBH if you got our products. If not, feel free to look at our catalog and see if we got something to help you out with. If you get a chance, again, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, make sure you select all. Like the video if you can. Also, hop on Google and give us a review. If you like what we're doing, give us a nice review. If you don't like what we're doing, feel free to voice your opinion, but be fair and be constructive. There's a lot of negative reviews on there that don't do shit for anyone, even people that you're trying to drive away from our business if you want to do so. So, do a nice intelligent review. If you really have an issue, we are always going to drive to get you on a one-on-one conversation, so feel free to email me. Frank at pbhperformance.com, info at pbhperformance.com, and we can definitely help you out. You can call us 561-737-2331. Make sure you check out our website, pbhperformance.com. Find us on Facebook and social media, Facebook, Instagram. We got stuff going on there too. And we'll be back next year. We got one last question that got snuck in there. John Smita asks, I got a 2017 F-150 Coyote with 20,000 miles. It's going in a 95 GT. What cams do you suggest for 450 wheel with full VCT? This is a 90% street car, or can I get it from stock Mustang cams? I think you can get it from stock Mustang cams. Intake upgrades like a Gen 3 intake or Cobra Jet or GT350. Cold air intake. Maybe some octane. Long tube headers are typically part of the equation. So 450 horsepower engine-wise is definitely attainable. Rear wheel horsepower, then I would probably lean towards getting a set of aftermarket camshafts. They're usually worth a good 15-20 horsepower bump at high RPM. They do rub mid-range power. They do rub bottom-end power, usually in equivalency to what they gain. So they'll spin up and give you power up top. Intake matches that. It's going to give you more power. So as you upgrade all these components, performance upgrades like cold air intakes, long tubes, and intake manifolds also give you more performance from changing the camshaft. So, and you know, it can make it sound pretty good too. So that's definitely something I've considered doing on my own car. I do have a Boss engine at my disposal. I'm going to try to find a Gen 3 short block to get an extra point of compression. Mix the two because I have the CNC ported heads from the Boss 302, the camshafts from a Boss 302. Maybe I'll splurge and put upgraded camshafts in it. Who knows? Gen 3 intake does the job for me and see how much power we can get out of it. But seemingly it's with the gearing changes I'm going to make on the car, we'll see how it does with what I have. I'm not in a big rush to do it. So yes, guys. Oh, Built for Speed, YouTube. Are you guys open? If yes, I got my information in the green box with the ECU I sent. Also got quite a few questions on that, trying to do a legal. Okay, we're closed right now. We're going to be open tomorrow. So if you need to give us a call, shoot it to us. Email us as well. We are going to be open tomorrow, New Year's Eve. We may cut out a little early. Sometimes we do. If not, we're planning on being here till 5. If you call us at 3:30 and nobody picks up, most likely it's New Year's time. So keep all that in mind as well. Be safe at New Year's. Don't blow your hands off. Don't go blind with explosives and fireworks. Don't do it. Don't drink and drive. If you need a ride, call somebody. Call me. Whatever, you know. So, guys, thank you very much, as always, for all the support, and thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Hopefully we supply to the answers that you need. If we missed anything, just post it in the replay in the comment section. We'll be there to answer it, and you can email us again. info@pbhperformance.com. Travis Dean, Frank Pezzo, Christian Papa, and myself are all on there to help you out. Thank you, thank you. Goodbye, 2020. Good riddance. Hopefully 2021 is better. Let's get it off to a strong start. Be positive. There's a new COVID strain. Ugh. Anyway, thank you guys for everything. I really appreciate it. And if you got nothing to do, that dating channel on YouTube and Foxcast Media on YouTube, they got some great content. Thank you guys very much. I really appreciate it. Humblest thank yous, and I really appreciate all your support. See ya.